G'day, welcome to This is Riffin. Today we're going to look at Prehistoric Dog by Fang. Another awesome track I've been hoping to cover for a while now. I'll start with my usual spiel about my dodgy video quality, audio quality, and tab quality. So yeah, it's just a work in progress and I'll get there slowly. So just note that these videos aren't 100% correct either. They're just a guide for you. With the tab on the screen, my notational values or the rhythm is way off, but I just huddle the frets together just to help it come across a bit easier. Today I'm just riffing out on an old Leslie of mine, which is an Epiphone, and that's plugged into my Fender Champion 100 solid. No pedals or anything. I've just got an overdrive setting to my liking. So to play this banger, you'll just have to tune your guitar to E standard tuning, which goes like this. E, A, D, G, B, and E. For the intro there, I just played it in a couple of different ways, so I'll give you a couple of options as always. There's a cool example of David playing this on Play This Riff, which is worth checking out. So this is a bit of a rough idea based on what he does and what I can hear on the album as well. So you'll just start by doing a power chord at fret 7 on the top string. I like to use my pinky when I do my power chords. Definitely use your third if you'd rather, or you can use your third and pinky like that. Whichever way works best there. So you'll strum 2 times. And then in the tab there, I've put open on the top 2 strings. So you can just whip that in there if you want, before changing to the next bit, which is a power chord at fret 5 on the A string. 5 on A, 7 on D. Then you'll go to 7 on the A string as a power chord, which is 7 on the A, 9 on the D. Another strum of the 7. Then we go back up to 7 on the top string, 2 strums. And then you get this little fiddly bit, which is 5-7 as a hammer on the A string, slide to 9. And so I use my first to my third finger, and then third finger to 9. D string, 7-9 as a hammer on. Now it's a bit hard to tell here. I think there's an open there. You don't have to do that, but it's just whipped in there pretty quick, I think. And then you're going to slam onto a power chord at fret 5 on the top string. So I'll go from the start. So something like that's going on. Back to 7 as a power chord. Open 5-7. Open on the top string again if you want. And then you get this cool move. So this is 6 on the top string as a power chord, 6 on top, 8 on the A, 8 on the D. Again, use whichever power chord works best for you there. Then we go to 3, 3, 3, and then we're going to do this move, which is 5 on top, 5 on the A, 7 on the D. So your first finger's barring 5 and 5. You're holding them down at the same time on the top string. So 5, 5, and then 7 on the D. I love those power chords. Then we'll go back to 3 as a power chord on the top string, and then 5 on the top string as a power chord. then start the whole riff again. Except this time when you get to this riff here, you're going to run through it twice. And then you'll stop on the fret 5 as a power chord. Something like that, a bit rough. So I'll just give you the basic idea of that wicked riff there. I was a bit sloppy with my playing, but it's got a wicked feel to it, super fun to play. So you're going to do 7 on the top string, followed by a 7 on the G, and it's quite quick. I think I was using my second finger there in my example, because then you can go to 6 with your first finger. So 7, 7, 7 on the top string, and then 7 on the G with your third. I'm doing down, up, down there. Keeps the flow going a bit better. It gives it that sort of cool, rough edge to it as well, rather than just being too slick. So you can really sort of attack it. Then you do 7, 7, 7 on the top string again, then 6 on the G with your first finger. So there's 2 6s there. And then you do 7 to 9 as a slide on the D, then another 9. I use my third finger there, which allows me to do 7, 9 as a hammer on the G, then another 7 on the G. We come back to D, 9, 7. And then you get this cool little move where it's 7 on the G, little rest, 6 rest, 7 to 9 as a slide on the D with another 9, 7 to 9 on the G as a hammer on, back to 7, and then a little bend of 9 on the G. So I'll run through that slowly. Something like that. I'll just run through where the band kicks in now on the tab. And in my example, I was just adding in some extra strums here and there that works best with me. It's a bit different to what the boys are doing on the album. They definitely change it live as well, just going with what feels best for them at the time. So I'll just run through it slowly. 2 7s here, which I think I did 3 7s in my example. Another 3 7s, down to 6, up to 10 on the top string here. So I use my second finger there to my third for the G on the 10 there. Back to 10. 12, 12, 12 on the G. Back to 10, 10. And you get this cool move. 10 to 12 as a slide. Another 12. And then a slight bend there. So again, in my example, I was probably whipping in extra 10s there. But it's roughly that idea. And then from there, back to the 7. Back to 7. 10. Then you got this cool bit, which is where the question mark is. 10 to 12 as a slide. And then another 12. Then we drop down to G. 12, 10, 12 as a bends. Back to 7. And then you sort of finish off with that fiddly little lick there. I'm sort of flying through this, sorry, but run through the tab there and you should be all hunky-dory. For this awesome riff here, it's a power chord at fret 7 on the top string, 7 on top, 9 on A, 9 on D. And then all you're doing is you're releasing these fingers here. So your first finger is going to be barring 7, 7, and 7. So it's power chord, bar. And I'm just doing down up with my strums there. The ups for the bar. So that riff gets used a lot throughout the song. So I just gave you 3 examples there of how you could play this section, and the first one's just a more simplified single note one. So you're going to play fret 9 on the G 9 times, and I was just doing alternate picking there, so down up, 7 on the G, up to 9 on the D, 7 9 7 9 7 9 7 on the D. Jump to 7 on the G, and then a 9 7 on the D. Third time is the same, and then you get this move, which is 9 and 9 on the D and G, just with one finger barred, and you're going to bend that. So I'm just bending the 9 and 9 there, but I have my mates behind me to help me bend it up. The second one's exactly the same sort of feel, except you're now barring 9 and 9 on the D and G. And then same for the 7s on D and G. Everything else is the same. Third one, which I rate the most, is what Dave appears to do live now, and that is the same sort of move to start it with the bars, except when you go up to 9, it's 9 on the A as well. It's 9 on the A, 9 on the D. And then you'll finish it off with the power chord, that riff sort of from before. For that move there, it's actually good to use your third and pinky for the A and D, because then that allows you to do that power chord to finish it off, because these fingers are already there waiting, like ready to go. So if you can, try and jump to them and then bang that first finger on. Yeah, more smooth. And then again with that bend at the end. At 151, you just roll through this riff again. Except you'll stop at the 7 power chord here, which allows the wicked drum fill to come in before kicking back around to that verse type section. At 221, there's just a power chord with a slide here. So that's just 7 on the top string, 9 on the A, and 9 on the D if you want. solo starts at fret 14 on the A string. Little vibrato. I'm using my third finger there because you're going to go 12, 14 as a hammer-on the D string with a slide to 16. And then a 14, 16 on the G as a hammer-on. Another 16, then a 16, 14, which you could do as a pull-off if you wanted. 16 on the D, 16, 14 as a pull-off on the D, then a slide to 12 on the D. So you do that 3 times. This move. So that's 16 on the G, 14 on the B, and you're bending the 16 on the G twice, and then a 16 by itself. I'll just run through the next section a bit quicker, but you get this sort of feel. So for a lot of that part there, I'm using my third finger on the 14 and my first finger for the 12. That's a nice little slide there to 16. So sort of climbing up and back down. So a lot of sort of 14 and 12s. When you finish the solo, there's a bit of a heavier part that kicks in, which could also be, and then live I think they're more like that sort of feel. So the first heavier sort of sounding one I gave you was a 2 as a power chord on the top string, 1, and then an open power chord. So 2, 4, 4, 1, 3, 3, and then open. And then you could also do one up here, which is sort of that bar move with the power chord. 9, 9, 11 on the D, then 8, then 7. So I'm just holding that same shape. Or the one that they're doing live, it seems, is up here at 14 on the top string as a power chord, 13, and then 12. So that's 14 and 16 together, 13 and 15 together, 12, 14 together. So at 338, I think David's doing something like this, or a bit similar to that. So that's 9 on the G with my first finger, 12 on the B with my pinky. And then at the same time, Brian is doing something like this. So that's 15 on the D with my third finger, and then 12 on the B with my first finger. And then you go to 14 on the D, and I jump to my second finger there. So it's 15, 14, 14, 15, 14, 14. And I'm just doing down and up there. So you put them together and it sounds pretty similar to what they're doing. At 343 you get this, which is just a power chord at fret 7, then 6, and then 5. So to take out the song, back to this riff again. has a little tail end to it. So that's one power chord at fret 7. And then you jump to that bar chord move, which is 5, 5, 7 on the D. And then you do that again. And then a power chord on the top string at fret 5. So in my example, I'm using my pinky for the 7 for the bar chord move, because then my third finger just has to stomp on down to the 7 on the A. So I hope that makes sense. Get back to that move again. But this time the tail end's just that little bit different. It's the 7 as a power chord. And then you're just removing your third finger. And doing the bar chord move, so 7, 7, and 9. So that's leaving my pinky on the 9 on the D. And it has this sort of feel. That sort of effect. I'll just play it through a little bit slower. Down and up with my strum. Back to that move. Take it out. And then to finish the song, you run through that riff again, and then there's a slide from fret 7 as a power chord. Well, I hope that helps you out in some way. I just find time is getting away from me at the minute, and I didn't want to bang on too long. But if you've got any questions, please leave a comment below, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.